Jai Sri Krishna.
Jai Sri Krishna.
I must say that I have no idea as to how many of you are getting the benefit of these talks. However, I know this, that preparation for these talks is definitely helping me. In chapter 7, Shlok 3, Bhagavan says that among thousands of men, someone makes an effort to get to me. And in other words, among the mankind, there are only few who take time and make effort to pursue me. Of these striving yogis, some rare ones devote themselves exclusively to me. Knows me in reality, very few, if any. So if these talks spark interest even in one person, that will constitute success. The shloks are sutra, meaning that they have few words, and each one of the word is full of essence. And they apply all over in every walk of life. The understanding of these shlokas come with the Ishwar Kripa only. So based on the message of Bhagavan Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, I like to point out my understanding of the difference between karma and Ishwar karma. Because we are in the Karma Yoga, topic is Karma Yoga. As I have mentioned before, in Sansar, whatever we have at our disposal has been provided to us by Prakriti or Devata as the fruit of, or the consequence of our past or the completed actions, karma. So as and when we are experiencing these consequences of the past karma, if we become attached to either liking or disliking the experience, that in it will result in attachment and will give rise to a new karma. Now, Devta will be more than happy to provide resources for this newly created karma, and we become indebted to them. So, this is the case with Devta karma. Now, in case of Ishwar karma, we are provided all the resources to perform the karma. And this does not put us in debt, because to perform such a karma, that is our dharma, duty. Secondly, if we ask Ishwar for any of worldly things, we are not provided for any worldly things until we are able to handle them. Ishwar wants to make sure that you can handle. Just like a father will not give a motorcycle to a 10-year-old to ride in. This is not the case with Devta. So Devta puts us in debt, whereas Ishwar does not. So in Karma Yoga, Bhagavan has described to us the art of performing karma, living in this sansar, in the Prakriti, and performing the karma, Ishwar karma, so we can get moksha. Now we will pick up where we stopped last time. Last time we were on Shlok 30.
Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha.
Mai sarvani karmani sanyastha adhyasma chetasa. So we saw that to perform karma without getting into the bondage, first of all, one needs to become adhyatma chetas. We talked about that last time. By establishing one's chit in Parameshwar. The second requirement is Mai sarvani karmani sanyast. That means dedicating all actions to me. Now, this is quite difficult. Here, one needs to exercise utmost care in performing the karma, since it is to be dedicated to Ishwar. You're going to present it to Parameshwar. It has to be top-notch karma. There should be no shortcoming in it. There should be no shortcoming while performing it. For example, when a guest is to arrive at our home, we thoroughly clean our house. We perform and make it comfortable for the guest, because the guest is Atithi Deva Bhava. We want people to be happy when they come to our homes. So even though we don't clean a house every day, that day definitely we'll have a thorough cleaning. So when we perform karma which is to be dedicated to Ishwar, we need to pay utmost attention so no error occurs. This practice in itself, just being alert, so there's no deficiency takes place while we are performing the karma, that exercise itself will help us to purify ourselves. The third rule is Nirashi. Nirashi means having no expectation or desire. So while you're performing karma, don't expect anything out of it. There's always something gonna be coming out of it, but you don't want to expect that this should come out or that should come out, whatever. Ordinary karma are performed with some desire. When you do ordinary karma, there's always some desire. People do to get something. But here, Nirashi, no expectation. So in Ishwar karma, there should be no expectation. The fourth rule is become nirmamo. Become free of feeling of mune. Have no sense of ownership that it is mine. So no selfishness in the karma. Should be no selfishness. This is my karma, I'm doing it. All our bondages are due to selfishness. When you selfishly do something, then you take ownership of it. When you own it, then you got it. When someone dies, it is the close relative who becomes sad and cry because they feel that the person was one of their own. The fifth rule of engagement is yudhyasva, meaning fight. This was for Arjun in the battlefield, but for us it is daily struggle of our life. We got to face it. To be or not to be, do not have this question. That question doesn't even arise. It has always to be. Got to do it. So Bhagavan says, do your karma without hesitation. Should be no question, no hesitation. Tatpar means just do it alertly. And the sixth rule is to do the karma with no mental agitation. Most of us procrastinate unless someone or something pushes us. Bhagavan is saying not to be lethargic. Vigata jvara, not that you get a fever when you got to do something. Feel sick. I got to do this? No. In the performance of the karma, don't do that. Especially when we saw before, nirmamo, nirashir, have no expectation, then people will say, well, why should I do that then, if I'm not going to expect anything out of it? But that's how it is in Karma Yoga. So these are 6 ways of performing any pure karma, not karma, pure karma, which can be presented to Parameshwar. The main one of these is to become Adhyatma Chetasa. In it, instead of looking outwardly, look inward. Outside are the object of senses. Rishi Kanad said, look to your Atma. Don't look outside, look to your Atma. The essence of all Upanishad Gyan deals with this subject. We wash our body every day, sometimes twice a day, and neglect Atma. We don't pay any attention what's going on with the Atma because it's inside. We can't see it. In order to cleanse Atma, we need to put our chit towards Atma and dedicate karma to Ishwar. That's the way to cleanse Atma. This is called Sri Krishna Arpan or Ishwar Arpan. Krishna is a synonym to Ishwar. This we can do for only pure karma. It's not that you go out to steal something and say Krishna Arpan. That doesn't work. We will take an example of this now. We need to eat to keep the body running. That is a fact. This food needs to be pure and sattvic. We then offer it to Parmeshwar and then take it as prasad. While saying that I am eating this to keep my body working so that I can continue serving you. Others who do not look at Atma are looking outwardly to the objects of the senses and are called Vishaya Chetas, not Adhyatma Chetas. They are Vishaya Chetas because they are looking towards the Vishaya. They will eat the food for its taste. The outlook of both is totally different and is opposite from each other. One is eating food because it's very tasty, nice, no? Other one is eating food just to nourish the body so he can continue doing Ishwar's karma, service, seva. That's what seva is. The former of the two, or the Adhyatma Chetas, dedicates or sannyasya. Sannyas means totally dedicated, totally give up all his karma to me, Bhagavan says, and take refuge in me. He takes refuge in him. He tells Arjun that when you will act in this manner, no sin will incur. Because Arjun was afraid if he's going to fight, he's going to kill everybody, he will commit sin. Instead, it will be a punya karma. The question arises that has this been told only for Arjun? This has been told only for Arjun? No. And to clarify this, in the next slok, Bhagavan says that any human who follows his covenants for karma with reverence can attain moksha. Arjun was only nimit. He was telling Arjun, but it applies to all humanity.
Ye me matamidam nityam anutishtanti manavaha shraddhavanto nasuyanto muchyante tepi karmabhihi.
Human beings who constantly practice this teaching of mine, described in Shlok 30, Bhagavan says, they too are freed from karma. Who are these people? They are the ones who have shraddha, reverence, and anusuyanto, or uncalving. They do not look anybody's deficiencies. They only look what's good in other people. So any human who has these two qualities will follow my teaching and attain moksha. Let us take Shraddha. In the path of Gyan, Shraddha is very important. The lack of Shraddha or Ashraddha opposes the Gyan. Person who doesn't have Shraddha, he'll always be questioning what is being said. What is this ashraddha? Interrupting and raising doubts or questioning while somebody is telling Gyan. Represents the lack of Shraddha in the Gyan, in the person delivering the Gyan, and in Parmeshwar whose Gyan it is. Secondly, the person learning the Gyan should be anusuyanto, meaning should not look at the person's dosh. Person who is telling or whose Gyan it is, don't look for dosh in them or flaws. There is a publication which is dedicated, just a little book dedicated to somebody wrote it for as a flaws in Bhagavan Krishna. Okay, you think he will get Gyan? Forget, he's never gonna get Gyan. Those who become critical of Gyan do so because of Irsha, jealousy. By following the teachings in Shlok 30, many of the karma are destroyed, although it takes some time. It doesn't happen instantly because it took time to accumulate those karma. Now in the next shlok, Bhagavan is telling about those who do not follow his teachings. Who are they and what does happen to them?
ये त्वेतदभ्यसूयन्तो नानुतिष्ठन्ति मे मतम् सर्वज्ञानविमूढांस्तान् विद्धि नष्टान् चेतसः.
ये त्वेदत abhisuyanto. But those who decrying his teaching, this teaching of mine, Bhagavan says, trying to find fault. Because even though a person obtains jnana, his past karma and their effect do not disappear. So, their karma is such that they will find fault in it. So these people, they have asuya dosh and they do not follow my teaching. What kind of people are these? Bhagavan says, Sarv Gyan Vimuhurans. These people have all kind of Gyan because there are so many Devata and the Gyan of Devata is a lot of Gyan. For every Devata there is a Gyan, their Gyan. So they have Devata Gyan. So their mind is always engaged into some other things and Devata Gyan only deals with worldly things, not with Ishwar. So they are the people because they are not the simple people. They have Gyan, but they have the Gyan of Devata. And based on that, they oppose Ishwar because they don't understand what Ishwar Gyan is. So what happened to them? Nashtan Chetasa. Their Chetas, that means their conscience is destroyed. They cannot think right. They always jump from one to other. So we take the next shlok.
सदृशं चेष्टते स्वस्याः प्रकृतेर्ज्ञानवानपि प्रकृतिं यान्ति भूतानि निग्रहः किं करिष्यति.
So these people were, what Bhagavan says, their chetas has been destroyed. Their conscience is destroyed. And he says, goes on to say, Sadrasya chestate swasya. Even the wise man acts in accordance with his own nature. Prakrite jnanavanapi. They act according to their Prakriti, Swabhav. Even though they are Jnani, they may have all Jnana, but they will always act according to their Swabhav. Because Prakritim Yanti Bhutani. All the Bhut means all the living being. Their Prakriti means their Swabhav is controlled by the Prakriti, their Prakriti. So, Nigrah Kim Karishyati. You want to change that, it's not in your hand, because what your Swabhav is, you're born with, that Swabhav stays for the rest of the life, whole life. They can try, but they cannot change it, because that is the Karam Phal Bhog. Because there is a lot of examples of this. So even though a person obtains Gyan, his past karma and their effect, which is like Swabhav, do not disappear. These remain as sanskar. Here Bhagavan explains Bhutani. Bhutani means all living being. Prakritim yanti. Act according to and bound by their Swabhav. Prakritir Jnanavanapi. Therefore, a Jnani also acts under his Prakriti. Don't care how big a Jnani is, he'll always act under his Prakriti, which is called Swabhav. Nigraha kim karishyati. So, what any external restraint will do, this is from inside. Swabhav is with us. So, we can try all outside restraints. It's not going to change things. So if there is a Jnani, he knows that he needs to remember Bhagavan. But it is in his nature that he likes to listen to music. So he will follow his Swabhav, even though he is a Jnani. A good example of this is Rishi Durvasa. Not for singing, but other matter. He used to get angry quickly and used to put a curse on people. He was Jnani, he was Rishi, but that's what he did. It was his Swabhav, his nature. It was his Swabhav. Similarly, there is example of Vashisht and Vishwamitra. Vashisht was Satoguni, his Swabhav was different. Vishwamitra was Rajoguni, his Swabhav was different. So, I told you a story before that Vishwamitra wanted Vashisht to accept him as not Rajarshi but Brahmarshi. Whereas Vashisht was Brahmarshi. But so to convince him, he took his different route. He took all his shishya, his disciples, one by one, he started to kill them. And that really agitated Vashishtha a lot. And he tried to commit suicide. But his guardian angel or Dehabmani Devta always protected, would not let him die. So Bhagavan is telling Arjun that you cannot get away from your fighting Prakriti, because Arjun wanted to be ascetic. He wanted to leave and go to jungle. Bhagavan says, no way, you cannot get away from your Prakriti. You may go to jungle as an ascetic, but there too soon you will engage according to your Prakriti. Earlier Bhagavan gave the example of Janak, who was Kshatriya. He continued running the kingdom after getting Jnana. Therefore, even after a person becomes Jnani, his Swabhav or nature does not change. One tries, means Nigra, restrain, try to change his basic nature, but what the restraint will do, Nigraha kim karishyati. Bhagavan says even a Jnani act according to his Prakriti, so what should a person do? Bhagavan is trying to say that to restrain is not in one's hand. Therefore, he should surrender all his actions into him. Sanyasya adhyatma chetasa. That's the only way out for us. A person should exercise Nigra, but while doing this exercise, he needs to pray to Parmeshwar to help him in this exercise. Similarly, when one comes under the influence of Grah, like somebody has Shani, Saturn, effect of Saturn or Mangal, whatever, he cannot escape their effect. It will happen. For this, he needs to pray to Parmeshwar, not any Devta, because Devta cannot do anything. They are the one who are supposed to enforce this. Only the Parmeshwar can change things. If the prayer is accepted, then the Parmeshwar will rearrange our karma, not destroy them. And some good which is to come later, he'll move him back so it comes now. However, a Jnani will say that he will have to face the same thing over again, even if one Parmeshwar changes it, alters it. So why not suffer right now the consequences and get it over with? That's what Jnani will do. This applies to all human beings because of the following. Among many names, what applies to all human beings? Just surrendering everything to Parmeshwar. Among many names, Bhagavan Sri Krishna is also called Parth Sarthi. This name is used in context with Arjun because he became Sarthi of Arjun. But Yudhishthir and Bhim were also Parth, not only Arjun. They were also Parth, son of Pratha, Kunti. The meaning of Parth is earth. They call Mother Earth, right? So here Bhagavan is saying that all who live on this earth should surrender all their karma into me. So when we will learn to leave things to Bhagavan, then Partha Sarthi will be with us and our karma will get reduced. Now I want to mention something from a book called Jivan Mrityu Vivek. Here the writer says, Krishno Yogi, Shukastyagi, Rajano Janak Raghava, Vishishta Karma Karta, Panchayita, Jnani Naspara. Bhagavan Krishna performed all the actions of sansar without attachment. He was a yogi. So Krishna yogi. Shukdev was a tyagi and was jnani. And then he says Janak and Raghav. Raghav is Ram. They were kshatri, they were kings, but they were jnani. Vashisht performed karma of teaching. He taught Gyan to Ram. All five were jnani, but all performed according to their sabha. Ram performed differently. Vashisht performed differently. We just saw what he did. Janak performed differently. So they all performed, having Gyan, they performed according to their nature, Swabhav. So Nigrah Kim Karishyati. Why you want to change things? So in the end, we'll have to leave all to Parmeshwar, our Creator. There is no other way out. Although, as has been said in the previous shlok, that all make effort according to their prakriti or nature, which is also called Swabhav, they do not follow the teachings of Bhagavan. It is important to know that all of us are attracted to people having similar nature. Nature plays a big part. We make friends with people who are like us, right? In life, we meet many people, but when we meet some people, we feel good and like to meet them again. On the other hand, meeting other people, we cannot even wait to get away from them. Our Devta informs us that this person's nature is not compatible with yours. We don't know, but our Devta tells us. It is our destined relation that brings us together. It is not an accident. In the next slok, Bhagavan is talking about our liking for some and disliking for others. Rag Dvesh, also called attachment or rag, or aversion, Dvesh.
इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषौ व्यवस्थितौ तयोर्न वशमागच्छेत् तौ ह्यस्य परिपन्थिनौ.
This is a very interesting slok. We have to understand this. Attraction and repulsion towards the sense object, they are rooted and hidden in the sense object. So there is sense, means indriya, and the object of the senses, vishaya. So attraction and repulsion towards the sense objects, they are hidden in the sense objects. We don't see them, but they are hidden in them, or the vishaya. So within the sense object, the rag and dvesh, like and dislike of the senses towards their objects. You see here? Senses like something or dislike something. What is their object? Like or dislike. So that like and dislike is actually inside the sense objects. And senses pick up whether they like or dislike. Rag, dvesh. They are there in hidden form. Man should never allow himself to be swayed by them. By who? Rag and dvesh. Why? They are man's foe. They are your enemy. What kind of foe? Paripantino. Here Bhagavan is telling us about ourselves. Paripantino means, we will go into that a little bit. That's the important thing to understand. He's saying that rag and dvesh are embedded within the sense objects, and in the absence of jnana, we are subject to these in our actions, and therefore both of these are within us human beings. Rag, dvesh, vyavasthito. Vyavasthito means actually situated, firmly embedded in us. In this slok, the doer or the karta, they are rag and dvesh. They are the one who are the doers. And they are within each of us. Bhagavan says, Ter yona vashma gacheto. Man should avoid getting swayed by them. Vasha ma agacheto. Do not get into their control. Tai hyasya paripantino. These are his enemy. Now we go into the meaning of the word paripanti. In old days, there were no credit cards, no big stores. You go to Macy or whatever you want to go, where you could go and buy things, supplies for the household. No Walmart. Vendors used to bring food items, utensils, clothing, etc. in a central village once a week. People used to go to these markets on foot or in bullock carts. To make purchases, they carried cash because that's all work there. They carry cash with them. Some people used to befriend these people. They find out who's got the cash and they become friends with them. And on the way, they used to rob them. They became really good friends, talking nicely, and as they got further away and away from their village, they found a quiet place, they robbed them. Here, these enemies are Rag and Dvesh. That's what Rag and Dvesh does to Jeev. Rag and Dvesh of senses for their objects. The traveler or the Panthi is Jeev. Paripanthi means the enemy. Par means enemy. Enemy of the Panthi, the Jeev, which is in the human body, engaged in daily karma. So, as Jeev is engaged in daily karma in the body, Rag and Dvesh are like those, that's like journey, right? That's life journey. We are doing our karma. We are moving through our life. So, Rag and Dvesh become our friend. They befriend us. And then they rob us. For example, we'll take music or listening to song. The listening is the object of the hearing sense, work of the ear. Now the like and dislike of that song is, liking the song is Rag and disliking is Dvesh. You heard some music, I don't like it. Okay, well that's Dvesh. You are actually exercising Dvesh towards that music. And the sense of hearing, you are doing this to the sense of hearing. And they are rooted in the object of the sense. They are in that song. The Rag and Dvesh are embedded in that song, which is the object of the sense of hearing. That's why you say, I like this or I don't like this. So, indriyasya rag dvesho. The rag and dvesh of indriya senses, vyavasthito, are firmly established. Where are they established? Indriyasyarthe, in the object of the senses. Indriyas artha, arth of indriya, arth means vishay. Tayorn vashma gache. The jnani should not get controlled by them. Because Rag and Dvesh will control. They become your friend now. So people are controlled by their friends, aren't they? They listen to their friends. Oh, he's my good friend. He's going to give me good advice, right? Not knowing what the friend is like. So they are controlled by Rag and Dvesh. That's why Jnani should not let it happen. Why? To hyasya paripantino. Bhagavan says they are paripanthi, or the enemy. Of what? Of Jnana. They keep you away from Jnana. Rag and Dvesh, like and dislike something, create more karma and bind you into it. How do these destroy the one who is pursuing Jnana? Now take example for it. First we take Rag. Rag becomes friend of Atma. Like the object of the sense, eye is to see. What is the job of the eye? To see. So a person sees beauty. The Rag then encourages the Atma and takes Atma far into the object of the sense. It's Rag which is doing that. So we saw before, who are the doers, who are the karta? Rag and Dvesh are the karta. So in this case, what Rag is doing, they know that this Jeev admired the beauty, so they carry that Jeev, that Atma, further into it. Go on further. See, you like it, go on. And where it's taking into the sense of seeing, that indriya which is seeing, which looks at things. In the process, the calm develops. As Rag is taking Atma deeper and deeper into persuasion of the beauty, the calm start to erupt, it start to develop. And it is followed by anger. Along with calm becomes anger. This then destroys the follower of the Gyan. This is how Rag and Dvesh will destroy a person. Same, Dvesh does the same thing. You don't like something, the Dvesh will carry you more and more, make you to dislike more and more and more. And eventually the Kamna will develop that I want to destroy this. Okay? And then what happens? Krodh comes. Without Krodh, you cannot destroy anything. And that is the end of Atma. The Atma just. So they were friends. They made good friend first, Rag and Dvesh. They befriended the Atma. And slowly, because it's the nature of Rag and Dvesh, that's what they do. And slowly they just took the Atma deeper and deeper into that hole and buried it. So, the desire to see a beautiful object the second time, okay, it's not because somebody has eyes and beautiful things come in front of the eyes, then eyes got to see. That's the first step. But to go back and try to look again for that object, the second time is the first stage of calm. Continuing on this path will cause his downfall. So there are 4 stages. That makes the person patit, downfall of the person. Even after explaining this way, Arjun still was not convinced. Bhagavan explained all this in detail, but Arjun was not convinced. So Bhagavan said to him, you are Jnani, your nature is that of Kshatri, therefore it will lead you to the karma of Kshatri, because that's what you are. So you do your karma of a Kshatri and surrender all those karma to me. I'll take care of it. But Arjun was still not fully sure. So Bhagavan finally told him the last thing. He says,
Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushtitat swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha.
Shreyan swadharmo viguna. One's own dharma, swadharma, or the duty, though devoid of merit, viguna, has no guna. That is better and preferable for him than the well-performed dharma of another. Paradharmat swanishtuta. Even death in the performance of one's own dharma. See here, Bhagavan is saying to Arjuna, even if you die fighting this war, it will bring blessedness to you. Another's dharma is fraught with fear. Paradharma bhayavaha. You will get nothing but fear from it. If you copy somebody else's dharma, you will never be happy. You will be always in fear. Here we'll take the example of same person as we did in the last slok. Bhagavan says, Swadharmo, your nature which has developed from your past actions. Viguna, you may feel, the word is feel, you may feel like that it is full of faults and is no good. It is still what? Shreyan, brings you Shreya. And Swadharme Nidhanam Shreya. Even if you die while following it, it will bring Shreya. Now in our case, who are not at war, go and fighting anything. What dying means? Means if we live entire life till we die. You see, it's in our dharma, performing duty according to our dharma, that is better than trying to copy somebody else in the world. Paradharmo bhayavaha, following the dharma of another, which you may think is better than your own, it will bring you down. Because you are not equipped with it. Your swabha is not that way. For example, if based on the past actions, one cannot follow brahmacharya, and he thinks it is better to be a brahmachari, and he starts on this path, he will not succeed because his nature is not that way. It takes different person. If you are in grahast, pursue jnana, remaining in it. That's what Bhagavan is saying. Arjun had several wives. He wanted to become sannyasi. So Bhagavan is telling him to practice yoga, staying in your own dharma. In time you will become worthy of sannyas. The question which Arjun has posed in the first shlok, Bhagavan answered in the last 32 shloks. Having heard Bhagavan's teaching, Arjun raises questions and asks Bhagavan to please tell me why a person commits sinful act against his wishes, knowing that it is not right. He still commits sinful act. O Varshane, constrained as it were by force. It appears that he is under some duress. Some force is making him do that sinful act. We will take this question of Arjun and Bhagavan's response in the next time. Shri Krishna Arpanam.